Dan, you have had many titles during your lifetime, I'm sure, but pretty soon you will be wearing the mantle of a Hockey Hall of Famer. How does that fit?
It feels like I'm in another universe. I've transported up to the Enterprise and gone to some alien planet. It's just incredible to believe that the greatest honor that a broadcaster could receive is coming my way, and not just me, but also to the San Jose Sharks organization. And I'm incredibly proud of it, but I'm also very, very grateful.
Who captured your attention when you were listening to games? Was there somebody you modeled yourself after?
Well, I don't know if I modeled myself after somebody, because I was advised very early on that you have to develop your own style. But I think, like as all of us do, we copy some of the things that we hear. I still to this day listen to all of the broadcasters in the league that do games, and I say, oh, that's interesting the way that they describe that, and I make a note of it. And you're always learning about how to develop your craft. But back in those days, for me, it was listening to a variety of people. And you know, it's kind of funny. It's the romance that we're talking about of twisting and turning the radio dial for the crackle of distant radio stations and getting the out-of-town scores and keeping up with the games. I grew up around New York, so I listened a lot to Marv Albert doing New York Rangers games. Right. But at the same time, while I was twisting the dial, all of a sudden I turned the dial a couple of notches over, and I realized that at night I could pick up WJR in Detroit and listen to Bruce Martin or Bud Lynch, who is a great broadcaster. His nickname was Burt Lunch. That's what Pete Stemkowski called him. Over the years, I was able to listen to a lot of different broadcasters and be able to develop it. But I'd say probably in the beginning, listening to the station in New York was the easiest way to pick up an NHL game.
And is it true that you did your first professional job the day after you got your MBA?
I got the job.
Or you got the job
day after. That's right.
I mean, talk about
luck.
Like just having it written for you.
Well, when I graduated and got my undergraduate degree, it was like, what do I do now? And so the key thing is you have to stay on the air in some way if you can.
Sure.
But I also knew that it was probably not a good idea to stay in a small town of 5,000 people. You know, you weren't going to get anywhere. Well, as it turned out, I get my MBA on a Sunday. I get offered the job. In that particular summer, there were 5 jobs open. I was really in the line for 2 of them. And as it turned out, the first offer that I got that Monday was from the New Haven Nighthawks, which is my hometown area, 10 miles.
Wow.
So when you think about it, when you're starting off in pro sports, on the financial side, it's a challenge. And so that was actually helpful because I was able to, as it turned out, I ended up renting a place, a room for my sister. We shared her house. We lived together for 5 years, and it worked out really well. So financially, it was much better. And also, I learned about the fact that my business background and what I was learning in graduate school actually was very helpful in working in the American Hockey League.
How so? That's really interesting.
I look at the AHL teams now and I think you guys have no idea. Like, I sound really old. But I say, we had 8 people in the office. So
Right.
I had to sell season tickets, I had to sell advertising, group sales, and do the promotions on the ice between periods, and broadcast the games too. So that was quite a challenge, and stayed busy. Lost quite a bit of weight that first year, and ended up having a great experience for 5 years in a very traditional hockey town.
I know that surrounding your Hall of Fame induction, you're going to be asked about your favorite calls over and over and over again. Do you have any, or do they change from time to time?
They change. I always like to tell people that my favorite call hasn't happened yet.
Yes.
And that's going to be the big one and Artur Zerbe gave me this line. He said, every day when you wake up and you think about the travails of being in professional hockey and the ups and the downs, he said, just know that every day that you wake up is one day closer to the Sharks winning the Stanley Cup for the first time. And you have to look at it that way. Jamie Baker scoring against Detroit in Game 7. I mean, that's a great moment for Sharks fans. The very next year, Ray Whitney scored in double overtime against Calgary to advance to the second round. That's one that's often forgotten now. I have a real favorite in 2010 when Joe Thornton flipped the puck to Patrick Marleau. It's one of my favorite calls. He scored in overtime against the Red Wings to give the Sharks a real stranglehold on that series. Jonas Donskoy in the Stanley Cup final in overtime.
Do you have faith? That call that hasn't happened yet, you have faith it's going to happen?
I do. It's going to happen at some point. We just don't know when. We do know what's going to happen, though. And you have your dark times, but every team goes through that. And I really believe that when it happens, it's going to be a special moment, not only for all of us that have been here, for all the fans who supported the team, but really for the city of San Jose.
Not that you are anywhere near done, and don't worry, we are not putting you out to pasture, but this is a milestone moment for you. How would you like to be remembered in this game?
Somebody who loved the game, who called the game honestly, who was able to paint a picture that made the audience excited, and who was their friend. We want to be the friend of everybody who supports the team, and even people who don't. I hear from people that listen to our games everywhere in the world because of the technology now, which is a great thing. I hear them say, I listen to the game and I'm a Flyers fan or I'm a Rangers fan, but I listen to the game and I appreciate it. That means the world to me.